What's up everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to be making this really cool spline tray. I jumped into Inkscape to make a template. Actually I made two templates. I had to make one for the long side and one for the short side. Now I want my tray to look simplistic but have a little bit of character to it, so I didn't go crazy with this. Just made some feet, made a little round profile for the bottom. I think this will look really good. Then I took those, printed it out, and I've got my template here. Now I'm going to take this and glue it onto some hardboard or MDF. This is 1/4" MDF. This stuff's perfect for doing templates. Plan is glue it on there, go over to the bandsaw, cut just on the outside of my line. That way I can do some sanding and profiling and make sure that I sneak up on that line so it looks perfect the way that I want it. I could have put these templates directly on the workpiece and cut those out. Thing is if you make a template, it does make it a little bit easier because then all your parts are exactly the same. So I can make one template, cut it out, make sure that that's right, and then quickly apply that to my work pieces and then buzz those over at the router table. I milled up some walnut to about 5/8 of an inch thick, something like that. I didn't measure it exactly, I'm just going by eye here. I just know that I don't want my tray to look too chunky, so I'm kind of going on the thin side for this one. At the table saw, I went ahead and cut them down to width, which is about 2.5 inches. And then I cut them to length. Now for my tray, I'm looking at about 7 inches wide, 12 inches long. I'm completely making up these numbers just by eye. That's what seemed good for me. So now I got my work pieces and I got my template. Couple pieces of double-sided tape. I love double-sided tape. Stuff is super handy to have. Align my template to the bottom here. That looks really good. Just take a marker, draw it on here. Not worried about it. This marker will be able to be sanded away, so we won't even see it. Head over to the bandsaw, remove most of this waste, put my template back on there, then go over to the router table. I had to nibble away at my material just a bit, just to make a little bit of room for that blade to get all up in there and I can cut down my line. And then over at the router table, I put a flush trim bit in, has a little bearing at the top that just rides along my template. Now I got some really nice pieces. So now it's time for joinery. I'm thinking miter joints, and I'm gonna do that over at the table saw. Since these pieces are not very tall, I don't have to set my blade at 45 degrees. I can just turn my miter gauge at 45 degrees, just quickly buzz these off. I need a bottom for this tray, so I milled up a piece of walnut to, I don't know, about 1/4 inch thick. It's probably a little bit thicker than that. Doesn't really matter too much. And then over the table saw, just threw in a flat tooth blade and ran a couple passes over it until the bottom fit into the tray. Now I went ahead and taped this all together. I got to figure out what size bottom to put in here. Just take a combination square, stick it inside those channels I just cut. Come up here, place a mark all the way around it. Then I can simply measure my marks and know how big of a panel to make. Cut this part off right here. The glue is dry on this dude. I did do some sanding to clean it up a little bit. So now I'm thinking we're gonna put some splines in here. That's gonna reinforce those miters. So I have my spline jig, really easy to make. It's just a couple pieces of plywood that is at a 45-degree angle and then some wedges that I shoved in there to keep it all stable. I have a flat tooth blade in here. I'm gonna put 2 splines in each quarter. To make sure all my splines are in the same location, I clamped a stop block to my sled. That way I can just butt it up against the stop block, make a cut, and rotate my tray around until I cut all the spline. Seeing that my blade is 1/8 of an inch wide, I went ahead and milled up a piece of maple so that it is down to 1/8 of an inch thick, so it fits perfectly into my spline slots, holes, spline hole slots. The glue is dry on the splines, or it's dry enough, let's say, and I need to trim these things off. So I could take a flush trim saw and saw these things, but I'm just gonna use the disc sander to do this. It makes it really, really fast, and I just like using this disc sander. It's kind of fun. If you're in the market for getting one, this is one I picked up from Harbor Freight, and I think it's just a Harbor Freight gem. It's definitely worth looking into. I had to sand the entire tray, all those nooks and crannies and curves and the top and the bottom and all that kind of good stuff. Sand everything nice and smooth and rounded over all of the edges. Just gives it more of a soft touch and feel. That looks really good. So now it's time to apply finish, and any finish will do for something like this. I'm gonna go with Osmo. It's been a bit since I've used Osmo. I really like that finish, so got a applicator pad here, dip it in there, buff it into the wood, wipe it off, let it dry. Perfect finish. I think this turned out really, really good. I like it, especially those splines. That's a nice little touch. I can't wait to fill this up with random junk, which is kind of the fate of any sort of tray in my house. If you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Maybe check out this other video up here. And to meet again, get in your shop and build something awesome.